Speaking of the PGA Tour schedule, I think that the Tour LIV, one of the most difficult things it's had to do is find a way to make the Tour Championship truly compelling when you have the players in 4 major championships. With your reporting, I know you talked to Rex about this as well on your podcast. Are we getting closer to having a Tour Championship that really makes sense and can galvanize the viewer?
It certainly seems like we're getting closer. And Adam Schupak of Golf Week had the report out last week. Although it was short on facts, it was certainly sort of narrowing down the options. It's not going to be match play, at least in 2025. It's not going to be the starting strokes format either, which has not really been all that well received since it was instituted in 2019. It's clearly a difficult decision. That's why we're now sitting here on the verge of May, and they have not come to an agreement of what the Tour Championship is going to look like. And it's such a difficult decision because you're trying to shoehorn 2 things into one season finale. You're trying to make, if you're the PGA Tour, the biggest spectacle you possibly can, but you also want to crown a season-long championship. I've talked numerous times on this podcast, on the show and on the podcast, about how I would separate those 2 and just have sort of this grand finale, this boondoggle at the end of the season at East Lake. I think that could be really cool, but I don't think you're necessarily going to find a consensus that really works for everyone, all of the constituents who are in play here. The players, obviously, they have a great grasp of what a good competition is going to look like. They are going to be hesitant to institute any sort of match play because they're playing stroke play all season long. All of a sudden, you're changing your format like they do in NCAA golf to a different format. I don't think that's necessarily going to sit well with the players. That might not be necessarily what TV wants, who's trying to showcase the best product and have the best entertainment for its big money season finale. The sponsors are going to have a different say as well, wanting to make sure the stars stick it out for the remainder of the week at East Lake. There's so many constituencies, there's so many stakeholders, but time is running out, guys. I mean, we're only 4 months away from the conclusion of the FedEx Cup season. They have to come up with some sort of solution, but it does feel like it's going to be a bridge year to something bigger and better.
Yeah, I'm hearing what Ryan's saying too. And I think the Tour Championship is kind of like golf. It's the pursuit of perfection that is not attainable. You are not going to be able to satisfy the players, the fans, everyone here. There is no perfect formula. But I do credit the PGA Tour and the players, the Player Advisory Council, the PGA Tour Policy Board for listening to a variety of formats and willing to be adjustable. So I like Ryan says, we are kind of running out on time for 2025, but I think that they are moving into a positive decision-making process. One thing I would like to say is that I feel like there should be better emphasis made on the regular season champion that I really don't think is emphasized enough in what they do prior to those, what is now 3 events heading into the playoffs.
Speaking of the single season champions or the prominent players on a tour, Ryan, Joaquin Niemann was the winner again on LIV yesterday after yet another no-show in a major championship, finished 29th, I believe, at the Masters. Is it at a certain point detrimental to LIV that this guy, he plays well outside of LIV in smaller events with shallower fields, but when he goes against deeper fields, he doesn't deliver at the same level? Does it become detrimental to LIV that the perception that its best player isn't among the best when he's actually in a deep field?
I can certainly see that point. I mean, look, Joaquin Niemann now has 5 wins. He's tied with Brooks Koepka for the most on that circuit. He has 3 wins this year, but I think we're struggling to understand what it actually means. I mean, you could make the very convincing argument that Joaquin Niemann is now the best player on LIV Golf, has supplanted Jon Rahm, at least when you look at his credentials and his resume, and that could obviously be very, very lucrative. But competitively, there's no way to contextualize that and what that means without better performances in the major championships against all of the best players in the world. Joaquin Niemann is obviously really talented. His game travels. He's won on a variety of different countries, on different golf courses, different grasses. He can play all the shots, but there's pressure mounting for Joaquin Niemann, who's now in his mid-20s and has not done anything in the major championships at this point. A player of his caliber to have 0 top 10 finishes in a major championship is bewildering. And I'm sure, Joaquin Niemann is well aware of that. And he's putting more pressure on himself than anyone else to sort of break that streak.
T-Lou, speaking of team golf, I want to spin ahead to the Ryder Cup. More likely to be a player on the United States team this fall, Keegan Bradley or Andrew Novak?
Oh, that is a really good question. If you asked me a month ago, I would have said, well, Keegan Bradley, of course. But Eamon, you and I were talking about this last week. I have been really impressed with the comfort and confidence that Andrew Novak has been showing over the last month. Third, second, first. And granted, I know it's a team event last week or over the weekend, and Ben Griffin did contribute a lot. But when he's in big moments right now, I don't really understand what is switched. Maybe it's just he feels like it's his time. He's feeling like he's been in these situations enough now that he doesn't feel the pressure internally or maybe externally. But he looks like he belongs right now. Now this is what we've seen the last month. Now he is in all the signature events. There are only a few remaining. He's in generally with his world rankings going to be in all the major championships remaining on the calendar year. Now is his time to really prove that he belongs not only in the conversation about being on the Ryder Cup team, but maybe getting himself into the top 10 in the official world golf ranking, making a run at the FedEx Cup. He seems to have a really calm, like I mentioned, a calmness about him. But I really do like the fact that he is reeling right now. And I don't know what it is in 4 years now on the PGA Tour, but really wanting to embrace the moment, not stepping away from it. And I think that has been a big shift for him to make this run.
Speaking of guys who are starting to feel comfortable out there, Ryan, Michael Block in the mix at the PGA Professional Championship. Are the shallow waters of golf social media ready for another Blocky episode?
I don't know. Are they still fighting about the grandstanding and the backstopping that happened at the Chevron Championship? It seems like there's always a story of the day on social media. Last night it was what happened on the 18th hole. Today, obviously, Blocky Mania is going to be taking over, and I can't wait. I mean, we're just barely more than an hour away from Blocky Mania continuing once again in 2025.
Blocky Mania, Quail Hollow, sign me up, boys. This is a lot of fun. Felt like we were around the water cooler. Thanks so much for joining us.